But first, I'm John Bachman. ISIS may be closing in on Baghdad. An Iraqi official has told Britain's Telegraph newspaper that thousands of ISIS fighters have virtually surrounded the city and have come within miles of Baghdad's airport. In Baghdad today, Britain's top diplomat says airstrikes alone cannot defeat ISIS, but
to beat ISIL, it is the Iraqi people, the Iraqi security forces, and the Iraqi government that will have to take the lead on the ground.
So far, that has not happened. A top official in Iraq's Anbar province says much of the western part of the country has fallen under ISIS control. Meanwhile, in Kobani, fierce street battles continue for the Syrian city on the border with Turkey. Kurdish fighters say they've been able to slow the advance of ISIS troops. Coalition airstrikes have been hitting ISIS around Kobani for about 2 weeks now. And over the weekend, American officials announced that Turkey was going to allow coalition jets to launch missions against ISIS inside Turkish air bases. But now an official from Ankara says that deal is not in place yet. There are also hopes that Turkey will allow Syrian fighters to be trained there. And there are still lots of questions in Dallas now after the first confirmed case of Ebola being transmitted here in the United States.
We're deeply concerned by the news that a healthcare worker in Texas has tested preliminarily positive for infection with Ebola virus.
Well, that nurse treated Ebola victim Thomas Duncan. Officials say there was likely some sort of breakdown in medical protocol. The nurse's home has been disinfected, and dozens who may have had contact with her are being monitored. And Ebola screenings of travelers are ramping up across the country. They started over the weekend at JFK International Airport, where people were arriving from West African countries. Those folks had their temperatures taken. Also, 4 other airports will start doing the same around the country this week. And the American journalist who came down with Ebola in Liberia is doing better. Doctors at Nebraska Medical Center say Ashoka Mukpu is still weak, but is responding well to treatment with an experimental Ebola drug. Also doing better today, the Spanish nurse fighting Ebola. The head of the hospital in Madrid, where Teresa Romero is being treated, says she is stable now. Romero caught Ebola from a sick priest who was treating folks in West Africa, but came back to Spain for treatment. And same-sex marriages could start today in Alaska after a federal judge struck down the state's ban over the weekend.
Just a lot of happiness. Felt really good about that. It was totally expected. Perhaps not on a Sunday afternoon, but nonetheless.
Alaska's governor is still promising an appeal. And a new Vatican document is challenging traditional Catholic views on gays and same-sex couples. It says homosexuals have gifts and qualities to offer, and the church should find a space for gay people. The writings come after a week of marriage and family discussions led by Pope Francis. Another Newsmax Now update for you in 30 minutes. I'm John Bachman. Now back to Midpoint.